All right, guys, welcome to the show. We're going to take a look at person of interest from May of 2016. Now, of course, this was just before the presidency, the previous presidency. And thanks to the subscriber who asked me to look at this episode. I've decoded a few episodes from person of interest. And interestingly, one of the episodes that we decoded from person of interest involved one of Trump's buildings. I think it was on Wall Street, actually. And remember, you guys will remember the episode. It was about a bank vault underneath the building that Trump owned. And this was actually before his presidency. And there were the pneumatic tubes that were used to send messages underneath the New York City, I guess it was Manhattan, and back and forth from this building. So we had decoded that one. That was foreshadowing of CV-19. And this episode is also foreshadowing of CV-19. Now, this episode was loaded. So we're going to break down this montage that I uploaded a couple days ago. And I want to remind you that the spamdemic started at the end of 2019. And that was 3 full years before this episode aired. But yet what you're going to see here are hints and clues of what we would all have to go through right now. Now, before we get into this episode, let me give you the backdrop of this show, Person of Interest. It's a series about a computer. I think it's called Samaritan, and it tracks citizens. And what it does, it uses an algorithm to anticipate good and bad players by way of data and cameras and credit card transactions. And then the algorithm kicks out people of interest that are then monitored by these detectives. Now, there is a good part of this program and a bad part, is what they want us to believe. But actually, both parts are bad. But they have these two factions within who are tracking down these people and trying to manipulate the data and to their own means. So that's what the backdrop of person of interest is all about. The computer then makes decisions about the people it wants to stop or help or have investigated or arrested even. Kind of like pre-crime, right? Now in this episode, this guy comes down with the flu, but then he gets sick and dies after he's given a fake scene. We're going to start calling it a fake scene. And it's not the virus that kills him, it's the fake scene. And then the detectives try to track this down as to what happened to him. They don't know if it's the virus or the fake scene. And they realize that the computer has created the outbreak in order to force people to get tested so that their DNA can be collected. Let's watch this here.
Hang out for about an hour to ensure you don't have.
So this guy's name is Co, like, Co Video. The odds of him being named Co is just off the charts. Now, of course, the fake scene causes him to bleed out internally. And this is the side effect that's happening right now. Blood platelets, clotting issues, all these things. And all this was foreshadowed. She then holds him for observation after he gets the fake scene. And they do this typically for most people who get any kind of inoculation. They will have to be held for observation. Unless, of course, you're driving through in a car, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Drive through CV-19, fake scenes. Are you serious? Like, anything could happen. A person could pass out behind the wheel. And if this is supposed to be so safe and effective and bad reactions are so rare, why is observation after the fact, why is that the standard of care? I don't get it.
Hang out for about an hour to ensure you don't have a reaction.
Hang out for about an hour to ensure you don't have a reaction.
And then afterwards, fluid and rest.
Sure thing, though. Thanks. Co's been treated and he's about to be released.
Like, really?
I'm gonna head back to the precinct.
Not sure what we're dealing with here. It could be a new flu strain. You and Garcia get a blood sample to the lab ASAP.
Now, how were they able to steamroll over our rights? Well, all the lockdowns and the mandates and all this stuff, it all happened under the Patriot Act, right? Then you got the wash everything down meme, wipe everything down, Lysol. All this was foreshadowing. Now understand that all these elements that you're seeing in the plot here, yeah, they're in a lot of different outbreak films, but what makes this difference is the timing and the specificity of this. Very specific in this. You're even going to see BLEM component to this. These three guys who tried to break the lockdown. And remember how they were allowed to protest and all this despite the lockdowns and nothing was said about it? I mean, talk about national security. If you want to talk about national security, why was that allowed to happen?
I'm going to look into the antiviral injection that they gave Mr. Coe.
If this is a flu virus, I've never seen one this aggressive.
Roger that.
Oh, hell no.
So, of course, this is what's going on with this scene, the BLEM component, and they try to break the lockdown, and they're stopped by none other than, you guys recognize him, Cave Azazel, I call him. It's really Caviezel, but you get it.
That's how the zombie apocalypse started.
Lab work indicates that we injected him with live human flu virus.
Now, of course, there's the contagion aspect to it. Again, this appears in lots of outbreak films, but the difference here is that they're making you believe that it's all on every surface and that this was a combination of two different viruses that were combined together that made it much more contagious. And a lot of this is the same programming we were told about CV-19, that it was different, that it was a novel strain, that it was many, many more times contagious than any other flu that we've ever experienced before.
What are we dealing with here, Don?
Avian flu kills 60% of people within 72 hours. We just combined. Grab every mask you can find. We're going to need them all.
So, of course, the mandates, we're going to need them all. Pull up the mask. What these shows do is they plant these little seeds that prepare you for what they're about to enact on the public.
Mask you can find. Grab every mask you can find. We're going to need them all.
Grab every mask you can find. We're going to need them all.
Make your way to the ER and await further instructions.
Now, this woman represents like the dark side version of the computer program. She takes instructions from the program and she's working against the good faction, the quote unquote good faction, which is Caviezel and his cohort. And they both want very different outcomes from the data that's derived from the computer program that is locating persons of interest, right, through the algorithms. But it's important to understand that both sides are bad. They're just trying to set up a paradigm where you believe one over the other. So they make you believe that it's good to have a computer program that runs algorithms that identifies people and collects their personal data. Right? And then they want you to believe that there is a good side that wants to use that data for good and to protect the public and to protect humanity. And as long as they win against the dark side, then it will have been successful because we'll be able to eradicate crime. Right? This is what they want you to believe. But in fact, you've already lost. The minute that you've allowed them to use data like this in this fashion to pry into your private life, and you've given up your right to privacy, you've already lost. You've already lost. Now, this woman is crazy. Like, basically, she puts these two stickers in a drawer. You know what I'm talking about when I say stickers. And she coerces this guy through threats to basically stick these two nurses. Now, what do the two stickers represent? Watch.
Fine, we're going to need them all.
Make your way to the ER and await further instructions.
So there are the two stickers. These represent the two injections, of course, for the fake scene. And this is what a third of the world already got in the developed nations. I don't know what's going on in other nations. But basically, she tells this guy that this is an insurance policy to take out these two nurses. Like, basically, they're covering their tracks. So what is this insurance policy about?
Stop. People are going to ask questions.
It's not going to be a problem. Most of the hospital's been evacuated. It's under quarantine.
Now, how did they pull this off? Everything that just happened. Well, remember, nobody was allowed in the hospitals. And all the medical establishment, the medical community's resources were diverted to CV-19. They stopped doing all other kinds of care unless it was absolutely necessary. So basically, nobody was allowed inside to see that these hospitals were mostly empty. And then we were given the excuse that, oh, the reason why they were empty is because we were just focused on CV-19. But at the end of the day, there was never a huge amount of patients that were in these hospitals. There just weren't. We couldn't get inside to verify the standard of care. We weren't allowed to get inside to say goodbye to loved ones or to question if people were really sick. You guys, I was researching the oldest woman in the world. Her name was Jeanne Clément from France. She lived to be 122. Well, the year before she passed, she supposedly had CV-19 with absolutely no symptoms, but yet they still hospitalized her. Why would you hospitalize somebody with no symptoms? Once they get beyond these doors, anything can happen. A lot of people had no symptoms, yet they were held in these places where they would be much more susceptible to things like deteriorating, health, infection, all kinds of things can happen. And then if you add in stress and fear and any medications they were, quote unquote, put on as a prophylactic to prevent a worsening condition, that could have contributed to their decline as well. And you start throwing off the body's balance with medications with side effects, anything can happen. And then you add in stress and fear and the mental component to all this, thinking, oh, this is it. I got the deadliest disease on the planet. Not even close. Then you add in the fact that a lot of people were put on vents prematurely when there were other options available like CPAP and all these other things that could have came first before a vent, which has only a 70% chance that you'll ever get off of it once you're put on it. And so this was all set up as a cover so that they could create a narrative that most likely did not have the best interest of the patients at heart. Now, behind him, you're going to see a poster, and I didn't really get a good shot of it, but if you watch the episode, you'll see that there's a really good shot of it. And there's a woman, and she's basically saying, shh, like, don't tell anybody. Right behind him as he's talking to this lady.
Am I going to get infected?
You'll be fine. I'm sure of it.
The syringes are an insurance policy, Jeff.
Those are your targets.
So here are his targets. And look at the two women that he's supposed to take out with the stickers. One's Asian, one's white. We know what countries these represent. Which is exactly how all this played out. And the end result after CV-19 was implemented was total draconian control, digital surveillance. It's beyond me how people don't see that our leadership in our country wants us to be like this country. Right or left. They just pretend they don't. But really, this rule of law that they want can only happen with digital surveillance. This is why they had the national ID that Trump was pushing. He didn't get it through, but he was pushing for it. Why would he do that? We don't need a national ID. Let's keep going with this.
One needle each.
Oh, there you saw it.
One needle each.
See the shh in the background on the poster? So we've seen that before too. That's all over decodes like this that we've done where they've got shh in the background, right? And let's see, what else do we have here? Next, you're going to hear the summary of what this outbreak was really all about, why the computer system orchestrated the events for this to happen.
After the news broke of a deadly outbreak, the CDC recommended everyone get tested.
So, for those of you that follow this channel, you know that we discovered the 19-year cycle of control. Every 19 years, they launch something. 2001 was the last time, 2020, this time, 19 years. Well, they mentioned that right here.
You're collecting everyone's...
So, in the episode, right, the testing collects the DNA. Now, I've heard some people say, Casey, they're already collecting our DNA. And yes, they were, but it was on a voluntary basis. The 23andMe program. And it was nowhere near the scope of what's happening right now. Total DNA collection we've experienced with CV19. Now, they will deny that they are collecting this. So I'm going to give the fair balance here for YouTube. But do we really believe them? It says here is the DNA of anyone who completes CV19 test stored in any database. This is from England. And it's interesting. Someone replied to this, so the official public health department of England. And when they replied to it, it goes to this link. Where did it go? Please find our response to your request. You click on this, it takes you here, and they pass the buck. They don't even answer the question. They say, oh, that's not our department, rather than giving a straight answer. Now, here's the official fact check, is what they say. They say, no, we're not. We only keep it for 4 weeks, and we only test for CV19, and then it's discarded. Well, I'd like to see how it's discarded. I would like to see where they burn up these, how is this being done? Why aren't we being shown this? So you basically have to, if you take them at their word, yeah, of course, but you be taking them at their word of a government that we know lies to us. So do we really want to believe, just patently believe that they're not storing this? We've already seen them do it with the heel prick tests with infants. Warehousing the infant heel prick test. Why would they be doing that? For years and years and years. They got caught doing it, and some states were ordered to destroy their samples only after they were sued by parents who weren't even asked if their samples could be used. Some of those samples were used in military testing, DNA testing. We proved all of this. Down in Texas, Texas A&M was involved in this. So they were sold infant DNA and to the military, and they were doing tests on it. If you don't believe me, look it up. Now, CV19 was their way of getting lots of samples and maybe even doing some kind of follow-up, comparing DNA that maybe they collected from at infancy, seeing if it changed at all. There's a million reasons why this could be happening.
And now everyone will be safe from another threat. Only this time, it will be disease instead of terrorism.
So, they made up teeterism, and they probably are going to make up the disease. That's my opinion. Okay? And why? It's for what they call here, you're going to hear her say, the great filter.
To get us through the next great filter.
To get us through the next great filter. To get us through the next great filter. Our own savage history.
Look at all the people standing in line for their fake scene. Just like today. What does this say? Health clinic. And now she talked about Jeff's opportunity to give everyone else an opportunity like Jeff. Well, that woman had Jeff's DNA, and she handpicked him to carry out her orders based on his genetic traits. That's the future they want for us. Put us in our roles based on our genetic traits. And then you have to ask yourself, what are the implications here? Could they begin to start coming up with certain diseases that only affect certain people with certain genetic traits? They keep going on and on about how crowded the world is. What would stop them from engineering a disease that covertly took out a huge segment of the population? What would stop them? The incentive is there, according to their reasoning and thinking. Now, why would they do this? Well, they know they want to reduce the populations. So part of their DNA roundup would mean that they would be the ones to determine which DNA needs to be ended and which doesn't. And this is how I believe the book of Revelation will go down. The disease and pestilence mentioned in Revelation. It will be a scenario something like this. Now, you heard her mention a national healthcare database and a great filter. What is the great filter? Well, I looked it up, and it's basically a species-ending event. And this is based on evolutionary theory, of course, which, of course, I don't subscribe to because I'm a Christian. But they blame the great filters on the reason why we don't see any life in the rest of the universe. So instead of realizing that God only created life in one place in the universe, and I wouldn't hold out the fact that there may be another Bible or something somewhere. Well, no, because God wouldn't do that to us. He wouldn't just not tell us the rest of the story. Some people try to read into certain parts of the book of Genesis that there may have been other worlds before ours. I don't know. That doesn't seem to jive with what the Bible says, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I just don't get that out of when I read Genesis. But some people believe that there maybe was. But that's a whole lot different than thinking that there's infinite number of planets in the universe with infinite numbers of societies and peoples and life forms. Okay. That's completely different. And this is why they have to push the infinite universe meme. Because if you think of things in terms of the universe is ever expanding and vast, then it's easy to conceptualize that there could be other living creatures. It would almost be a certainty. But if you believe, like I believe, that we are at the center of the universe and the universe is much smaller than we believe, then all of a sudden, all that goes out the window. But they don't want people thinking like that. They want you to think the universe goes on forever and ever and ever, and there's billions and billions and billions and millions of stars and suns and this and that, and that, oh, that must mean there's life somewhere. There's got to be another planet around another sun that has life. And that directly flies in the face of creation. And that's what the enemy seeks to do, is to put doubt in your mind. So they put out theories like this, like the Great Filter, to explain away the fact that they haven't found any life anywhere. Now, here's my guess. Any day now, the Mars rover is going to say they discovered life. You're going to see like a little half chicken, half goat running through the Martian landscape. And they're going to say, we found it. And then from here to Sunday, they're going to basically make up these animated cartoons of life on Mars. And all that will do is continue to erode people's faith about the one and only true God. I'm telling you, this is coming. I almost guarantee it's just a matter of time. They just have to make it look like they've been on Mars for a while before they open up the life LARP. We'll call it the life LARP. Now, how does this great filter concept fit into the episode and CV19? Well, the CV19 Fear Factory has actually already tried to compare CV19 to the great filter. This is crazy. Here's an article from 2020 talking about the great filter. This is, what is this? New York Times, June 2020, just after the lockdown started. And they had everybody in the Fear Factory convinced this may be the great filter. Oh no, 3/4 of humanity is going to be erased from the planet. Remember how everybody was so afraid? And here we are, a year from that, from this, with a 99.7% survival rate. So pretty lame filter, right? But the fear damage has already been done, of course. People have given up their rights. They've gotten stickers. And they ain't smiley face stickers either. Well, actually they are. We know what that means, though. So the episode ends with everyone standing in line for their sticker and the computer calculating the percentage of people that have been fakeinated, which is exactly what's happening right now as they try to reach herd immunity. And look at, they got it up to 67% here. Wow. Circle. This just broke on May 13th. I guess that was a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who sent this to me, but now here's a local news station actually trying to claim that it's CV19 that's altering your DNA, not the fake scenes.
Stall. ABC 10 News.
Some people in the anti-vax community have seized on this MIT study as evidence that mRNA vaccines could also alter our DNA. Professor Janich says his study in no way implies that. He himself got an mRNA vaccine.
Let's play that back.
It is a controversial claim. A new study suggests the coronavirus doesn't just hijack our cells. In some cases, it can actually alter our DNA. Our ABC 10 News anchor, Derek.
You have to be kidding me. So, of course, rather than knowing this in the beginning before the fake scenes came out, they're now claiming this after the fact. That way, they can just blame it on this instead of that, right? So, there it is, you guys. There's person of interest pre-programming. Now, let me pop back in here. Thanks, everybody, for showing up this morning. Thumbs up at this video if you haven't already. And let's go into the chat just for a little bit. Person of interest. Now, some of you have asked which episodes or which shows these are sometimes. And I just want to let you know that from this point forward, I will put the name of the show in the title. And I'll try to mention it as many times as I can during these decodes, so that there's no confusion, because I get probably 20, 30, 40 people in the comments asking me which show this is, and I've put it in the title before, but I just want to give you an easy place to find it so there's no confusion. Okay, that saves me a little bit of time too, answering people's questions about which episode it is. All right, so let's go in here in the chat, let that catch up for a bit. I'll get these links. There aren't too many links this time, but I'll pin those in the comments. All right, there we go. Foretold on Game of Thrones, zombie apocalypse. Yes, Susan. We have inherited lies. Yeah, thanks to the subscriber who sent me that episode. I would have never found that episode. So that was great that they... you know, I do listen to what you guys show me and tell me and send me. Like I said, when you do email me something, just make sure that you don't just send me just a link. Put like 2 sentences as to what you want me to look at, and even give me a timestamp, especially if it's like a 2 or 3 hour show. Now, I can't look at everything, but I pick and choose based on, you know, what the Holy Spirit leads me to look at. I think we've done pretty good so far in terms of listening to where we're supposed to be looking and how that keeps coming back full circle and being confirmed in all the rest of the work. So, I love for you guys to send me stuff. Just please give me 2 sentences to what it's about. Otherwise, I just won't have the time to look at it. All right. Now, I love you guys. I know we disagreed on this whole thing. I don't want you... Maybe I came across a little bit strong, and I apologize for that. But I've just been around for so long. I've seen these things come and go. I've seen people try to steer us wrong with fake things that get the whole community in trouble, like the chem lung thing. And everyone was freaked out. Everyone thought they had black stuff coming out of their lungs, and they were freaking out. You know, and they create these memes on purpose. Okay? And look, there's still 25 days left to prove whether or not this thing is real or not. If you need help with getting an x-ray, just email me. I can probably send you some money to do it. Okay? And there will be other people. If they want to send money, I will direct it toward an x-ray. Okay? I just don't want you to feel attacked. Okay? Because that's not what this is about. I don't want to attack anybody. I just want to make sure that we're not getting tricked again. We've gotten tricked so many times, okay, with this stuff. And look what it's done. It's taken all the emphasis off of all the real stuff that's happening. The rashes, the clots, the this, the that, the seizures, okay? Like all that has now been overshadowed, and we're actually now behind in convincing people because everyone's focused on this, you know, thing sticking to people's arms, okay? Now, I also want to complete that whole thought by letting you know that if there was a magnetic field around you that was strong enough to hold a magnet to your arm, there would be all kinds of things going wrong with your body. Your heart would not be beating correctly. Your heart is electromagnetic. It would not be beating correctly if you had a field that strong. You would be setting off alarms. You would be dimming lights. You would be erasing credit cards right out of your pocket. And your phone, for that matter. You would have metal objects sticking to you all over the place. You'd be walking down the street and have paper clips stuck to the bottom of your foot. You got to think logically with this stuff. And the field would not be directly only on your arm. The field would be all around you, not just on your arm. If it was the magnetic field you're talking about, so there's two different aspects of this we're talking about. People are saying it's either a magnetic field or it's an object in your arm, big enough to hold a magnet to it. Okay. So I just gave you some really strong reasoning as to why neither could be the case. But again, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's figure it out. All right. All right. I love each and every one of you. And please be nice to each other. Even if we disagree on this, that's all I ask. Because if we're not nice to each other, then guess what happens? We're playing right into their little game. Now, I also want to tell you, here, let's go to Facebook. Oops. Okay, let's go to Facebook. All right, let's go in here into the home here. Now, you go on to Facebook. There are, now that's not a prank, obviously. This guy's got this bear has this thing stuck to his head. Okay, so if you go on here, there are what are called viral pranks. Okay, I get these all the time. This is a new phenomenon for me. I didn't know about this. But here's some MMA stuff. This is a lot of wildlife stuff. But every so often I'll pull this up. Look at this guy. Look at the size of this guy. Battling this. This guy's like a giant. You guys probably know about. All the MMA people probably know about all this. But there are pranks on here. And everybody's in on the prank. That's the funny thing. Now, even though you know that everybody's in on the prank. Oh, here's one. Is this one? Oh, what a hero. Oh my gosh, look at that wave. Oh, I think someone's drowning. Oh, geez. Yeah. Surfing. Okay. So, like here's one. Oh, no, that's not one. Anyway, kind of defeated the purpose of the whole reason why I was trying to show you this, right? There are pranks on here. I don't know why they're not showing up on here now, but if you start watching these, they're pretty funny, right? But they're all fake. Everybody involved is fake, but it's still funny. Now, what would stop people from starting to do that with this? That's why we have to verify. Can't just assume that this stuff's real. All right, that's all I'm saying. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Love you. Have a great day.